Welcome, Shadow Seekers, to American Shadows, Crimes and Chronicles. Today, we're unearthing a tale that'll haunt your thoughts long after it ends. Whether you're glued to the screen or just listening in, you're in for a wild ride through history's darkest corners. If you're new, hit subscribe to join our mission of exposing America's hidden truths. Regulars, your likes fuel our journey into the unknown. Now, let's peel back the layers of time and reveal the secrets beneath. Ready? Let's begin. Antietam, the day 23,000 soldiers fell in America's bloodiest battle. Hello, friends, and welcome to American Shadows, Crimes and Chronicles. Today we're journeying back to September 17th, 1862, a date etched in blood on the pages of American history. On this day, the rolling hills and quiet streams near Sharpsburg, Maryland, became the stage for the Battle of Antietam, the single bloodiest day in American military history. How does a quiet farmland transform into a killing field of unprecedented scale? What drives men to such extremes of courage and brutality? And how did this one day of unimaginable carnage change the course of the Civil War, and indeed, the fate of the nation? Before we dive into the events of that fateful September day, I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to all of you who support our work. Your engagement allows us to explore these pivotal moments in history, ensuring we never forget the sacrifices made in shaping our nation. The Confederate Gamble. To understand the significance of Antietam, we need to set the stage of the Civil War in 1862. The conflict had been raging for over a year, and the Confederacy, led by General Robert E. Lee, was riding high on a series of victories. Lee had decided to take a bold gamble, an invasion of the North. His goals were ambitious: to rally Southern sympathizers, force the Union into peace negotiations, and gain international recognition for the Confederacy, particularly from Britain and France. However, Lee's army was stretched thin and low on supplies. The invasion was a high-stakes gamble that had to succeed if the South were to maintain its momentum. Opposing Lee was Major General George B. McClellan, leading the Union's Army of the Potomac. McClellan, known for his caution and meticulous planning, had a stroke of luck. On September 13th, Union soldiers found a copy of Lee's battle plans, Special Order 191, wrapped around 3 cigars in an abandoned Confederate camp. This intelligence coup, known as the Lost Order, gave McClellan a rare opportunity to strike decisively. But would he seize it? The stage was set for a confrontation near Antietam Creek. On the eve of battle, both armies faced each other across the landscape, the air thick with tension and anticipation. A dawn of blood. As the sun rose on September 17th, the battle commenced with ferocity. The Union forces launched a series of assaults on the Confederate left flank, beginning with the infamous Cornfield. Waves of soldiers charged through the tall stalks, and the fighting was so intense that the Cornfield changed hands no fewer than 8 times over the course of the morning. By the time the sun had fully risen, the field was so littered with bodies that one soldier recalled being able to cross it without his feet touching the ground. The air was thick with smoke and the cries of the wounded, the ground soaked with dew and blood. Entire regiments were wiped out within minutes. Soldiers described the cornfield as a place where every stalk of corn had been cut down by bullets, a nightmarish killing field that defied imagination. The Bloody Lane. As the morning wore on, the focus of the battle shifted to a sunken farm road that would forever after be known as Bloody Lane. For 4 hours, Confederate troops held this natural trench against repeated Union assaults. The carnage was unimaginable, bodies piled upon bodies as neither side would yield. By midday, Union forces finally broke through, but exhaustion and heavy losses prevented them from exploiting the advantage. When the position finally broke, the road was filled with dead and dying men, blood flowing like a creek at its bottom. The sight was so horrific that it would haunt survivors for the rest of their lives. Burnside's Bridge. The afternoon saw some of the war's most iconic moments. Union troops under General Ambrose Burnside repeatedly tried to cross a narrow stone bridge over Antietam Creek, facing withering fire from Confederate sharpshooters. It took hours and thousands of casualties before Burnside's men secured the crossing, a delay that would prove crucial. Just as Burnside's troops began to press the Confederate right flank, reinforcements arrived in the form of General A.P. Hill's division, their uniforms still covered in dust from their forced march from Harper's Ferry. the fresh Confederate troops halted the Union advance, and the day's fighting drew to a bloody stalemate. A nation reels. By nightfall, the fields of Antietam were a harrowing tableau of devastation. Over 23,000 soldiers were killed, wounded, or missing, a staggering number that remains unmatched in any single day of American warfare. The sheer scale of the casualties stunned both the Union and the Confederacy, with neither side able to claim a decisive victory. The next day, September 18th, the two battered armies stared at each other across the blood-soaked fields. Lee, his invasion plans in tatters, began to withdraw his army back to Virginia. McClellan, ever cautious, did not pursue, missing an opportunity to potentially end the war then and there. A turning point. While Antietam was tactically inconclusive, its strategic and political impacts were enormous. Lee's invasion of the North had been turned back, giving the Union a badly needed victory. This allowed President Abraham Lincoln to issue the Emancipation Proclamation, which he had been holding back until the Union could claim a victory. Announced just 5 days after the battle, on September 22, 1862, the proclamation declared that all slaves in Confederate-held territory would be free as of January 1, 1863. By redefining the war as a fight not just to preserve the Union, but to end slavery, Lincoln effectively prevented European powers from recognizing or supporting the Confederacy, as their populations largely opposed slavery. The legacy of Antietam. The Battle of Antietam had a profound impact on how Americans viewed the war. Photographer Alexander Gardner arrived at the battlefield 2 days after the fighting and captured some of the first photographs of American war dead. When these images were displayed in New York, they shocked a public that had never before seen the grim reality of warfare. Today, the Antietam National Battlefield stands as a solemn reminder of the terrible cost of the Civil War. Visitors can walk the grounds where so many fell, from the blood-soaked Cornfield to the Bloody Lane and Burnside's Bridge. Each step is a reminder of the sacrifices made and the high price of national unity and freedom. As we reflect on the Battle of Antietam, we're left with difficult questions about the nature of sacrifice, the brutality of war, and the high cost of national unity. How do we reconcile the immense loss of life with the important strategic gains? What can we learn from the decisions made by leaders like Lee, McClellan, and Lincoln in the crucible of war? And how do we honor the memory of those who fell on both sides of this tragic conflict? This is American Shadows, where we peer into the darker corners of our nation's past. Until next time, remember that history isn't just a collection of dates and names. It's a living force that shapes our world in ways both seen and unseen. The echoes of the guns at Antietam continue to resonate, reminding us of the fragility of peace and the terrible price of division. As we go about our daily lives, let's take a moment to reflect on the sacrifices made on that September day in 1862. For in understanding our past, we gain insights that can help us navigate the challenges of our present and future. The shadows cast by Antietam are long indeed, and they continue to influence our national identity and our understanding of the costs of conflict in ways we are still struggling to fully comprehend.